My name is Orser. I'm the owner and brewmaster here at 46 North. We're a small craft brewery in Sudbury, Ontario, located on Kelly Lake Road. And I would like to think that we're known for making more experimental and very different beers. And we have certainly a lot of fun making it. We started construction of the brewery in July of 2018, and we didn't open until April of 2019. So it took us 7-8 months to fully construct the brewery. It was absolutely a labor of love, and there's no way that we would have produced 46 North and built this without family and friends. It was a hard journey. I wouldn't have changed it for the world, and it's still very surreal. So the process for making beer starts with the malt. So we take mostly barley here at 46. We also use wheat and oats. And we take the raw malted grain and we run it through our milling machine, which essentially crushes the grain. So this is the barley before we crush it. And we're very particular about the crush that we use in our grain. Too fine of a crush, we're going to create flour and it'll dough up and we won't be able to lauter as properly. Too loose, we're going to have the water run right through the mash tun and not rinse off the sugars, and we'll get a very poor efficiency. So the crush is actually very specific. It does change on the type of grain that we use, and it's a two roller mill. So we adjust those two wheels to a very specific gap, and we use feeler gauges. So this particular grain gets a 1.55 millimeter gap. It's done fresh for every batch, so we crush grain every day that we brew. And then from that point, we're basically going to add all this crushed grain into the mash tun, add the hot water, mix it up like a porridge, and that's how we convert our starches to sugars, which is the big part of brewing. So this is super sugary concentrated wort. There's no alcohol in it yet, but we've hopefully converted all of our sugars. Water is the biggest ingredient in beer. It's the most important ingredient to some. Here, Sudbury is all spring fed. Our water source is really good. It makes great beer. And we have to do very little doctoring. We find that we do the most doctoring, if we're gonna make like an Irish stout, Ireland's an island surrounded by seawater. So we add salt if we're gonna be brewing, an Irish stout. We're brewing a peach blonde ale today. So we want a really nice, clean, beer, so we're just going to add a bit of gypsum into the mash, and then the second thing we're going to add is some lactic acid, which we do to adjust our pH, so we get the best possible conversion we can out of those starches, and to keep beer tasting good. When you think of the simplicity of beer, there's really only 4 ingredients: water, barley, hops, and yeast, and we treat each one of those 4 ingredients with the most care and love that we can. We source good quality ingredients, the best quality hops. We use fresh liquid yeast, and we treat that yeast like our own children. We harvest it and feed it when it needs food, and all of the contributing factors are going to contribute and make a healthy, good quality beer. And I think that's the true secret to making good beer. So we're going to add some hops to the boil kettle to create some bitterness and some good hop aroma. It's just going to be hot. Be careful. Smells really good. When we're selecting ingredients, we're definitely not taking a stab in the dark. We are, brewing beer per style for the most part. So if we're brewing an Irish, Irish red ale, we're trying to source, Irish yeast that's going to give it that flavor compound. So we're very selective. We use a huge variety of malts, hops, and yeast. At any point, I think right now in the brewery, we probably have 6 different types of yeast that we're keeping alive and feeding, and we'll be using on batches. which is quite a bit. I mean, we're a very small brewery, so that's a lot of variety in such a small brew house. Believe it or not, we're boiling a beer right now, and we're going to boil that beer for another hour again, primarily for sanitization. So we're sterilizing the wort. The wort is what we call beer with no alcohol. We're adding hops to create bitterness, to kind of combat that sweetness that's in the beer. And from then, we'll transfer it to one of the fermentation vessels. We'll add the yeast, and 2 to 6 weeks later, we'll have a delicious beer ready to serve to the public. Beer is one of the oldest brewed alcoholic beverages known to mankind. It predates Christ, and it's been made for a very long time, and there's a lot of history. I think there's still a lot of fun in brewing, and not everything has to be perfect. And I think that's another big motto that we go with here. And sometimes we try some pretty wacky things, and some of them hit, some of them don't. And I think the important thing is we tried something new. You know, to think of how old beer is in scale of human race. We're still finding new things to do with beer, and that's so cool and so cool to be a part of.